Let's introduce the team a little bit here, the people that are on the call right now. So my name is Min Mong. Those of you, I mean, I'm sure some of you guys already know me. Otherwise, you won't be here. Otherwise, you're part of my mailing list that, not mine, but the whole team's mailing list that, you will hear our messaging, and some of it's from us, right? I've been with CCC. I have attended CCC since the second year, actually since the first year. And then I've been presenting since the second year, but I've been organizing since probably like third or the fourth year. And then I've been leading alongside my brother since for about 6 years now. And we're in it for, this is probably like the 12th year if we were to have an event this year, right? Unfortunately, we have, Mother Nature to thank for.
Thanks, COVID.
That we don't have controls over, right? In the past, I've been working with setting up the site, getting the website kind of working, as well as helping get sponsorships, different roles. Pretty much jack of all trades, so to speak. And then I'll transition off to my brother, who is also on the call, and he's got airplanes in the back.
Yeah, hi, how's it going? I'm Lewin, I'm the other counterpart. Like Min, I've been involved with this community for a long time, right? And I've also been a part of this CodeCamp, either as a participant or as a presenter or as a organizer for a while. Min and I started presenting on the second annual Chicago CodeCamp, way back when. And since then, I've slowly been either presenting or as a, helping out in volunteer roles for a while. And like Min said, we actually, jumped in and, took the bull by the horn and committed to actually running this, right? Because we need to keep it going for about, we've been doing it for about 6 years now. Doing my day trade is a consultant. I actually work with Chet and Min as well. Alongside, we actually, write code. In terms of CodeCamp, I've been helping out pretty much, jack of all trades, everything, right? All the way from getting, day off walks to planning ahead to, organizing and figuring out what kind of topics and people we want to see and speakers and chasing, pretty much everything. Welcome to the call. I'll transition it up to Chet, and then I'll introduce the team first, right? And then the rest of you guys can actually jump in and say hello as well. Hey, Chet, how's it going?
Good. Hey, I'm Chester Harden, though I always go by Chet because that's a good nickname and it's usually easier to remember, easier to say. Let's see. I would have to check the number of shirts that I have to see if this is my 4th or 5th year with Chicago CodeCamp. It's just been a while. Like pretty much, I moved to Chicago 5 years ago, and I don't remember not working with Chicago CodeCamp. So everything from the back end, API to the front end to like setting up tables and making sure that phone calls are made and all that fun stuff. I've been part of, even though I like to pretend I'm the silent member of Chicago CodeCamp, I'd rather be in the back end, where I think the Hmong brothers do an excellent front end job. I try to remain quiet as far as like, I'll do whatever I can, but as long as I'm not in the spotlight. But as you can see with the sun setting in the west, there's a big light here. So on that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Fazio.
All right. So yeah, I actually just checked it. This is going to be about 5.5 years since Min pulled me into Chicago CodeCamp, and he's still putting up with me along with the whole group. So primarily responsible for the mobile app, also helping with some of the website things, and then all kinds of things day of, kind of whatever is needed there. So I'll make mine short and sweet, and we'll go ahead and go over to John.
John Weber, I wear a lot of different hats, but typically day of event, day before event, that kind of stuff. I'm helping out at event. I'm somebody that's helping out a bit with some of the social media posts that you're seeing lately. Hopefully, hopefully seeing those. I've been involved with Chicago Code Camp. Oh, geez. All of the ones at IIT in recent years, and probably, I'm going to guess 3 or 4 of them that were at College of Lake County. I'm trying to remember which shirt was the first one that I got and then helped put together the shirts.
Do you have a white shirt?
I don't have a white shirt. I know I've got green, I've got blue, I've got the gray.
So since the 3rd year then?
Okay, yeah, I don't have the red one. The red one was the year before I started going.
Yeah, I'll say 7 or 6 years easily.
Okay, yeah.
I think the red one was the red one with the ugly logos. We used to have ugly logos. Literally, that has 3 C's, one in a pyramid form, and I think the red one was IIT year. So yeah.
Yep, and my involvement at the time, they needed some help with somebody to put together a shirt. I had the software and the time to throw some logos together to go on it, and did that as well as helping day of and attended. So that's been my background on it.
John's the guy, to give John credit, right, he's the guy who actually got us the 501c3. So, props to John for that.
Thanks. I don't want to overstep or overstate what I'm doing.
He's the man that is hustling and running around on the day off, right? Because by the time the day off happens, my brother and I and half of the team is already dead because we've been trying to get everything ready before that event.
And moving all the stuff in the truck to bring it on, and so on and so forth, right? Because we bring our own equipment as well. Gordana?
I can say, yeah, it's going to Gordana.
I don't know if you guys can hear me better this way or if I should change
Yes.
mic. I'm Gordana Sekic. I've been with the team. I started first really as an attendee of the Chicago Code Camp in the old days when it was in Grace Lake. Mm-hmm. And then when we transitioned to IIT, I think that's when I joined the crew, helping out before the event mostly, kind of like everybody else was saying, some part with coding, mostly on the website. And then on the day of, I remember I was responsible first for really getting food and stuff like that. On the day of really, as you understood, we all kind of pull everywhere where it's needed. So it's been fun.
Hey, Mike, you want to quickly introduce yourself as well, since you are here?
Yeah, Michael's one of the former leaders of CCC. He stepped down in the past year to just give us more of a guidance on things versus running things day to day. Life happens, right? Yeah. So
still have the gray shirt on. So.
there we go. The original shirts, right?
Yeah. But yeah, if there's anything I can help out with, guys, I'm here for you.
Oh, sure. You're volunteering back again, Michael?
I hear that as a yes.
I think that's a yes.
It's one of those things like once a volunteer, always a volunteer.
Exactly. The computer issues he's having right now.
It's like the CIA. You never really leave, right?
Yeah. And until you die, right? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg's here too. Hey, guys. Yeah. So I think we've more and more people joining in, et cetera. How is everyone doing? Min, do you want to actually, quickly go over what we want to talk about today? Obviously, we're happy to have you guys here, right? The aim is to ask us anything in terms of what we want to do, how we are, moving ahead, what we're doing with other communities, et cetera. We have, people across different regions too. We're here to represent us too, right? So, Min, go ahead.
Yep, try to pull up some.
Yeah, our notes, right?
Yeah.
So we did a quick introduction. In case you have any questions while Min is pulling up anything, right? Feel free to just ask us anything or comment anything on the current state of things as well as where you guys are looking to see, right, in the long run. The aim is that Chicago Code Camp is not going away, right? It's not. As a matter of fact, we want to actually grow into a bigger community, once this thing is over. The the traction that we have for the last 10 years is not going to go, just disappear overnight just because, COVID happened, right? Or for that matter, any other, any disease is not going to get us, sideways, right? We will survive and we will go over. It's a matter of how do we pivot and navigate around this to keep the community strong, and how do we going.
So some of the things that, we thought that you guys might want to talk about is stuff like, results of the survey that we sent out earlier in the year, what we plan on doing. Like how are you guys feeling overall in the current, state of this new normal, right? Just to see, how everybody's doing. So at any point, just feel free to ask us anything, right? I have pretty much the results of the survey for the quarantine. I am going to share that with you guys right now.
Yeah, the survey results were fairly interesting, right? In terms of what time availability for you guys to meet up, if we are doing these kind of things, what kind of interests you have in various areas. So funny enough, right? We ask if we're having a time for us to do a conference call. What day is it? What day works for you guys? And resounding result is usually the weekends are the best. So here we are, right? Saturday. And also in terms of times, we look for a particular time frame. And afternoon seem to be working. Also evening. Me being a new father, recently evenings interesting time for me, right? And I'm assuming a lot of you guys have kids as well. If you have younger kids, you will definitely feel the same thing. So evenings works out a little harder for us, at least for me anyway, to get involved. In terms of preference, Zoom has the highest rating as well, so thus we are there. Hey, like that dog.
Lauren, we as a team, we did discuss about Zoom and YouTube and all these things. The biggest thing that we wanted to give a non-biased platform for everybody. Like we have our preferences, obviously, from different companies that we work for and work with. But it's always good to get the community's feedback, and we definitely took your feedback, and we're trying to make it happen, right? In terms of the topics, so here's what we're doing with the topics. We got 82 responses. We cleaned up some of the responses out a little bit, but essentially what we are using the responses for is actually not, it's more towards helping you guys at the end of the day. So when you go to CCC, and if there are speakers and presenters that want to present, they can create a new session, and we actually give the list of topics that people are interested in, that the community is interested in. That way, the speakers kind of know what the community is interested in, therefore they can apply to it. Obviously, there's going to be once in a while, we're going to bring in a random, more interesting topic. So like, if you look at our past events, we've had keynoters that we had talks on, like intellectual property, which is not, it is related to our industry, but it's more general, right? So, so we want to introduce the different, we will introduce a different topic once in a while, but, and we'll pick a specific speaker at a different time for those things. But this is to help not only the community, but it also helps the speakers, right? I'm sure that, there are some presenters amongst us that have gone to that have submitted, they got selected for a topic, and then they show up and there's only 5 people in the classroom. Right. I think some of us has had that experience happen, and it's good and bad. I
thought it was just me.
You get those like detailed. Did you see the dog? The guy with the dog?
I know.
Momo, look. Gordana.
Yeah. So
where's my
it's just to help everybody, right? So that's what we did, and that's what we're doing the surveys. We'll probably do a level set survey later, probably next month. Probably because the states are opening up a little bit, right? People have different schedules going forward, so we'll see how that goes. Any questions regarding around the survey?
Phil, John, Steve, anybody? We have multiple Johns too, so.
None for me so far.
Greg, any comments from your side? Well, you just jumped in, right? Why are you putting me on the spot?
No, I don't mind being on the spot. No, I think the survey was a great idea, and looks like you guys had a good amount of responses. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, the next couple of phases, right? And what we're thinking of doing. One of the things that, internally we thought of, we came up with was an idea of actually having a, just a meetup like this, right? Hey, let's jump together, talk about anything you want. Let's look at the community, look at the health of where people are at, right? Listen to you guys and communicate on both ways. We'll do that once a month, right? Conversely, at the same time, our plan is also to have a once a month meetings of various topics, right? Either from the past presenters or the topics that you guys are interested in, or anything interesting that might be coming around the band, right? Or it could be security related, it could be, healthcare related, it could be anything that could interest us. So the aim is to actually have that, momentum keep going while we are offline mode, if you will. Because my feeling is that, personally speaking, I don't think we are, getting together probably anytime, for the next at least a month or two is what I'm thinking, in person, right? So that's the overall plan. Or anybody else come and chime in if you have anything else additional to that.
I'll let somebody else speak from the team first before I speak anything on this.
Yeah, sure. John or Chet?
Fazio?
Yeah, nothing really to add there. I think the having something going on, every 2 weeks is fantastic. It definitely makes me feel like I'm in the community.
Yeah, so I mean, as Luan said, right, I don't foresee us having a actual in-person event anytime soon, considering even with the 6 feet rule, right, that, some people follow, some people don't. It's a big liability for us as an organization, right? And it's just going to be one of those things that, do we want to take those chances? Do we want our community to take those chances? And knowing our industry, it's people will be, we can make it work virtually if need to, right? And even next year, going into next year, 2021, we don't have a vaccine yet right now. So when that comes out, not everyone will have the vaccine yet, right? At the same time, the social distancing thing, we need to figure that whole piece out. Is it still going to be an issue, right? Go ahead, Greg.
There's other pieces that play too. So for instance, you have to be cautious of government stuff as well, right? So the federal and the state and then, county or city may apply as, so even say in the suburbs, maybe different than Chicago proper. And what I'm getting at here is, even though maybe we get back to fully wide open and everything else, but they may say, but no events larger than 50 people for the rest of the year. So you have to be cautious of that, when you're looking at larger conferences too. It's one of the main reasons that conference was essentially thrown there. Even if we were back to quote unquote normal, would you feel comfortable going to a place that had 2,000 people? Or for the code camp, would you want to get there around 400 people? It's really tricky. And then the other added thing is there's the liability of the location. So the individual school or wherever you host it would be tricky.
I mean, the question is this, right? Are you guys as a community or as an individual, what's your comfort level as well, right? And what's your safe zone? For us, I mean, even with me and Min, right? And we live about 10 minutes away from each other. I mean, we are still very cautious when seeing, even family members, right? And that's not the end, right? Funny enough, I mean, I do have my other part of my family, right? My wife and our family is from Wisconsin. They are, on the other hand, is a different state over there, right? So when we have visitors coming in, how do we fix it? How do we get around that? It's just a complicated matter, right? Because speakers that could be coming in from different states. We have users that, or people that are coming in from various areas too. So what is, when do you guys as a community see a comfort level in terms of having an event? I mean, is it when the state says something else, or a local, like authority says something, or is it when the vaccine is there and it's proven? I mean, what's your thought on that? Because obviously we want to level set with the right area as well, right? And the base that we have. John, up there, I believe. Well,
yeah, I just want to throw this out there. I think that part of it is when the government says it's okay and so forth. And I don't see large events on the scale of Code Camp or that conference being feasible until at least second quarter next year.
Yeah.
On the other hand, given that we are developers, we're technologists, this platform right here is, I think, incredibly effective. I can say, those of you, I don't know if any of you know me, I see a couple somewhat familiar faces. I've been largely out of the community the last several years for family reasons, but I made it to that conference in the summer once a year. But I've been to more conferences the last 3 months than I have been to in years, because you don't have to travel. You sit here at your desk with your computer, and it's just very effective. And some have been in Zoom, some have been on Discord, and I'm actually looking forward to going to Code Camp since the first time since it moved to the city. I attended all the College Lake County ones. I'm very stuck in suburbia. So that's my answer there. I don't think we're going to have a in-person event for some time, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a very effective community building event.
Yep.
Totally agree, John.
I'd like to offer
go ahead, Phil.
offer my perspective if I could. I have two different pieces of things I'd like to say about that. As an introvert with social anxiety disorders, I prefer not to be in large crowds, so I would prefer it to never be a 2,000 person event, because I don't do well in large crowds like that. I love talking to people, I love conversing with people, and these more intimate one-on-one things or smaller groups are a lot better for someone like me. But also all-day DevOps is something I've been involved with for a couple of years, and they have never been an in-person event. They're always strictly online, and they do a 24-hour event of nonstop, back-to-back. They do maybe 50 or 60 talks, and it's hugely successful. So there's no reason why Chicago Code Camp couldn't be successful being strictly online, and maybe have smaller break-off in-person events for people. But I also think it would bring down a lot of the overhead for everyone to not have to necessarily organize all the food and all the events and things like that. I know there was some questions about, do we have people pay ahead for food and things like that? It kind of nullifies those questions anyways. So that's just a few things to maybe put into the pot.
That's a good idea, right? I mean, there are a few of us, me and myself, Greg, we have done a lot of events like that, on a bigger scale, like global scale for people at Microsoft, where there is a worldwide event that's happening, a bunch of people are broadcasting at the same time or consecutively right after each other. We can moderate, et cetera. I mean, the platform is there. We can figure it out, right? We are developers of sorts, of various, areas. So it shouldn't be an issue for us. The question is it an acceptable platform? Does it make a Code Camp a different animal, or I wouldn't call it lesser event, right? Because obviously it is still going to be an event. Does it give you guys a different feeling about it? Is it a good thing to go ahead and do we get a general thumbs up, or is it let's see how it goes? Okay, I got a thumbs up from Phil.
I'm kind of even though I'm a participant in Chicago Code Camp, as far as on the board and whatnot, I'm with Phil. I've always been like the introvert who will look at your shoes instead of my own. But the thing is, I also
You're not
feel
finished,
like,
are you?
what's that? Sorry, Phil, what was that?
Oh, I said you're not finished, are you?
No. But I relate. But the thing is, like Chicago Code Camp, even though I've been primarily, on the board instead of just a participant since I moved to Chicago, I know it's like the physical aspect of it is great because, I have my current job because of Chicago Code Camp, which is great. But at the same time, it's also kind of like, most of my Chicago Code Camp days are like running around doing 500 different things. But those times that I have been able to like talk to people in the community or like present at Chicago Code Camp, I've actually had like some really great experiences and made some great contacts. But at the same time, the flip side of it is, we all work in tech. I don't know how many of us on the call COVID has really affected as far as our daily life. Like my job and my previous job and my job before that, we always had work from home options. Now, whether or not that was like primary or like secondary, it was like, oh, I don't feel like coming in today. Cool. So, for that side of this, I think, a virtual code camp works well. But, I think as far as like growing the community, especially in Chicago and or like around Chicago, like knowing other developers and saying, hey, yeah, I really liked your talk, and we grabbed lunch after that, and now we're working on a project together, which is like there's that benefit of like being in person, where versus like like Phil, you seem really cool, but we can't have like our side conversation during this time. Right. So we're like a real life conversation. We're both introverts, and we could probably look at our own shoes during that time. Like, so Phil, what are you into?
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Let's
I'll
connect
email
later.
you about this thing.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's catch up in Slack after this.
Exactly. So, I definitely like, as an introvert, I'm all for virtual code camp, even though I'm on the board and I, enjoy the chaos of the actual day sometimes. But, then again, like this is the community voice, not like mine.
Yeah. One of the things that, Luan and I, we've been trying to do is try to get the community, like whatever you guys tell us, right? We're really trying to listen and try to make that change happen for the whole organization. The hardest thing for us to do is, to be, fully transparent. One of the hardest things is to take this whole thing virtual, right? We need to figure out a good platform for, one is we don't have a platform yet, right? And thanks to COVID, we're now forced to find a nice platform, right? So we don't have a choice on that. But like the biggest value for that we find for people is just to connect in between sessions. And that's why we usually give about 20 to 30 minutes in between sessions, so that it not only gives you people time to go to the restroom and get a drink and eat snacks, but it also allows people to meet the other attendees, your fellow other peers. Whether you guys are talking to each other's shoes or not, that's a different story, right? But at least you guys are talking along the same ideas. It's like, hey, I'm working on React, and I'm building this and this new modules out, right? These new components out, right? So it's just going to be like you get to meet fellow peers, right? But also in person, it adds a different value to it. But that said, there is enough people that have been asking to make this thing go virtual, get recordings and put it out there. So we need to we'll have to figure that piece out. And I think our goal this year is, if we don't have an actual physical code camp, is to at least have more than one session going on at once, just to try it out and scale out as needed, right?
it might be like 1 day of something, right? It could be maybe 1 day of cloud computing. It could be another month, might be 1 day of potentially, or a month of, every quarter could be a different thing, right? I don't have a schedule yet. We don't have anything yet. We don't have a plan yet. Like when I was going with Phil's idea, if there was something like that, I think that we could see some traction.
That said, we do have a plan in place, which is to have these. So we're going to have these monthly hangout sessions where we'll talk informally like this, hopefully more informal than this, and then there's going to be another monthly talks where we're going to try to get presenters like and talk on actual technical content. Which is going to be like a meetup, whatever type of session, where it's going to be one technical, one hangout, informal sessions, right? So if there is if the communities in hangouts say, hey, you know what, I want to hear this, and everybody's shouting about like, hey, I want to hear about machine learning, then we'll find somebody for that, right? So it's going to be and this monthly thing on the video technical calls, it will be a good way for us to kind of try out how this technical presentations are going to work out, so that once we have the good feel for it down the line, we can make it so that it's multi-track.
Yeah, because in order for us to have a session, right, we still need not just a content and the person to deliver the content, right, a speaker, a presenter. We would also like to have a moderator, so that there are questions are coming in properly, things are, properly sorted through. And, obviously we're also recording or keeping track of this content as well, right? So that we can eventually put it back up on the archive list. As you can tell, right, we have been trying to get into the area of trying to go recording as well for a while. With the keynotes, we've been doing that for a while. Trying to make it as efficient as we can, right? Typically, keynotes come out within 24 hours after the event ends. The aim right now is, same thing applies for any other, potential content like this as well, where, we'll like to actually get it done right. And the biggest thing is community, right? Like involving with you guys out there, see what you want to hear, or heck, even if you want to present, right? Anybody is more than welcome to it. And additionally, this is how we also meet friends and and future coworkers and everything else as well, right? That's how I met Chad. That's how I, that's how other relationships form, right? That's how I end up meeting with people like Greg, who present equally with us in various different conferences as well. So this is how we grow, right? This is how we form that bond to keep us going. Mike, John, go ahead, Greg.
I think that so I participated in a couple of online only kind of conferences now. And so I'd like to change the conversation maybe a little bit there, like if you've presented there as well as if you've attended. So for instance, the Minnesota Developers Conference, MDM, I think they just call it, or MDC. They had all the presenters do it through Zoom, but they had all of the sessions from Zoom live streamed to YouTube. So then all of the attendees were seeing a couple second delay to YouTube. And then they had a moderator that was taking questions. But what they did is they programmed that so like when you went to their website, they would see the YouTube stream in their website, and then that way they could enter chat, and the moderator could relay that back because they were in the meeting, in the Zoom meeting with the presenter. The Microsoft MVP RD Summit used Teams, but they had to invite everyone that was attending, which would seem like a horrible manual process.
I don't want to do that.
Well, that was using like Teams meetings, which is kind of like what we're doing right now, using Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then Teams has live events, which is a webinar type thing, and Zoom has a webinar type thing. I've used those. I did 6 topic focused AMAs over COVID, and I used the Zoom webinar, and I used GoToMeeting's sister that they call GoToWebinar. I didn't like either of those. I felt, as a speaker, I felt very disconnected from the audience. And so I switched to Zoom meetings so that people could join up like this, and then I would pin my video or spotlight my video in Zoom. So then it forced my video and screen share to be the predominant thing. And then that way, if people had questions, they were able to type them, raise their hand, or come off mic. And that was much more of what I'm used to from a speaker, to get real-time kind of feedback. Like I want that discussion. Yeah. Which brings me to my last point, because I know I'm making several points here, is it takes a little bit for speakers to get used to just presenting in, especially like a webinar online, because not having that feel of the audience, not seeing anything, a lot of times they're staring at their own screen or their own presentation deck. And so there is a different skill set that some speakers may bomb if they're great in-person speakers. So thoughts on any of that stuff? I'm just throwing out there.
Well, I think a few people have a thumbs up on that, right? Okay, John, go ahead.
Yeah, just couple of Greg's points. Number one, he's absolutely right on that. If you don't know what I do, I'm a community college professor teaching all sorts of technology stuff, and I've been doing C++ lectures since the virus hit in March. And you're right, it is a different skill set. But you can pick it. If you're a good speaker in person, you can pick it up and become a good speaker online, even though it is different. I'm also involved in planning a genealogy conference that will be using Zoom this September.
Awesome.
And so the trick there is we're going to be using Zoom webinar, and they charge, you actually have a different upcharge to go to the webinar product. And if you want to have 4 simultaneous tracks, you're paying 4 simultaneous upcharges.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're just now starting to work on some of these details. So I don't have a lot of knowledge to bring you guys to the table, but we believe we can do it. We've been using Zoom for the monthly meetings. I was the March presenter, using my experience from teaching to present on a genealogy topic. And it's been working. People have been happy, so.
That's good to know, right? I mean, it's finding that sweet spot is a good start. And some of us, have in the past, right? Like Greg said, and John, you said, right? We have presented it, virtually and in person. The thing that we're also trying not to alienate is, we don't want a open source guy to, go set up a Microsoft Teams meeting, right? Just for making this a event. We want to actually keep it as community friendly and as open as we can and as agnostic as we can, right? So some of the feedback, we'll definitely write it down. I think when Greg was talking about some of the the key features, I think we got a couple of thumbs up. So I definitely noted that. We will actually look into that as well in terms of the moving forward path of it and how how we can evolve. My feeling is that the next meetup or the next event, right? The next item that we're going to see will be an in-person topic of somebody presenting. We don't have a topic just yet, but I do have, we have a couple of ideas we do have a couple of people who are asking, hey, if you're looking at presenting and going that route, they are volunteering to present. So we'll figure something out for that, right? Very soon. We might run into, a glitch or two on the first run round. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can practice ahead of time to make sure that nothing else happens. Is this what we're hoping for?
Wait, we're not gonna run first and then walk later?
No.
We're just going to do it live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we test in live. We test in prod.
And maybe the point that Greg made, providing kind of environment where we prepare for situations that can come up with those, you know, virtual events where, you know, connection drops, Zoom stops working, or people just, you know, cannot find stuff that they prepared for the session. Maybe in advance we can provide some kind of friendly environment for people to try it, and we can be there, a couple of us, to just, you know, try these questions and answers and kind of get people acquainted with the environment. You know, maybe somebody would then feel more likely to speak and to take part.
That could be it too. Yeah. Yeah, the aim is to grow this thing out to other people as well, right? Not just the you know, the four of us or whatever it is that it's usually been, the, you know, the usual key talkers, right? The aim is to include more people and try to spread this out and keep this thing going and growing. Anybody else? Any questions from you guys?
So I think one of the things that in regards to all of this is we are, for how we talked about initially about the technical side of things, right? The technical talks. We are opening. We already have a we already have a ability to accept monthly speakers now. So if you guys, I mean, if you know anyone, you know, they can definitely submit for July, and then we'll pick somebody for July so that we can have a talk on that. That will be a technical talk on that. And, we will spawn out, you know, August, pretty much one quarter's worth at a time, right? That we'll be taking speakers for.
I do wonder how this impacts sponsorship, like how you incorporate sponsorship, or, you know, in some ways, I guess it may not matter as much since you don't have to pay for food, you don't have to pay for, you know, a lot of these things. But
well, yeah, I mean that's going to be a different conversation that well, Michael, you're not on, you're not doing this anymore.
Right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's going to be something that I'm going to have with the sponsors, right? One of the biggest things is going to be, you know, CCC has always been free for many attendees, right? A lot of the CodeCamps are free for attendees, and the only CodeCamps that I've seen that charge money in any form is pretty much to offset the cost of food, right? So but you know, just because there is no more cost for venue and space time doesn't mean that there isn't any cost to run, you know, the Zoom account and all this other stuff, right? And there's still upkeep to keep the, you know, the platforms up and running as well, such as, you know, our websites and stuff like that.
Right.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was about to say that, you know, if you went last year, for example, that last year was the first year that we actually had any kind of a charge to attend, and that charge was strictly for the lunch. If you, you know, brought your own, if you brown bagged it, or, you know, had Uber Eats or somebody like that, you know, run your sandwich by or something, you know, there was still no charge, and there was still some light snacks and drinks that were still free, you know, sponsor provided, of course, at the venue. So, you know, we weren't, you know, starving people or anything along those kind of lines at all. As a bonus to the people who also, you know, paid for lunch, they also got a Raspberry Pi too. So, you know, as an extra thank you for their assistance and, you know, helping us out, because we had to pre-order, you know, we had to guesstimate how many lunches we were going to be doing with the amount of people that were signing up. And we were, you know, we knew how many were paying for sure, but the venue wanted to have a certain quantity. You know, if you've ever put on a conference like this, you can't always bring in your own food to a venue, and sometimes venues have a locked-in contract with a provider, which was the case where it was last year. So, you know, the price of the food, we basically, you know, passed that on, as I understand it. It wasn't something that wasn't a profit center for us or anything along those kind of lines to provide a sandwich, chips, and drink, and I think it was a piece of fruit or something, wasn't it, last year? Off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember, and maybe some other cookie. Yeah, maybe a cookie or something. Yeah. So it wasn't something that we were looking at as any kind of a profit center, but we did have to, you know, factor in, okay, you know, we think that there's going to be this amount of people buying lunches, so that they could prepare them in time for the event. And we did have extras. And if I remember correctly, last year, there's a homeless facility that focuses on assisting people who live on the streets and whatnot in Rockford, Illinois, and we donated the extra lunches to them, and they were very grateful to get the extras as a donation. So, there's that end of it too, and it's sharing that good and passing the good on. Part of the learning, sharing, and development that we push with Chicago Code Camp, that LSD isn't just Lakeshore Drive. Learn, share, develop. So, that just, is one of the other things that comes along with it. And so, as Min mentioned as well, there are other costs of doing business each year that an organization has to, go through. We do an awful lot of sweat equity around here on this project. I don't take any kind of pay to do the work I'm doing with Chicago Code Camp. I don't know. I don't think anybody else on the board does either. So,
if anything, I think I end up adding more to it.
Yeah, I think I pay out of pocket for my participation.
So what else is on our topics, Chet? Do you know?
Does anybody else, maybe from attendees, have anything that they wanted to talk about today that we didn't bring up at all?
Yeah, man, I'm looking at my notes, and I think we've got pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about covered, except for there is a call for speakers for, so if you feel like talking at our next event, we'd love to have you.
And that's for July 11th that we're looking at?
I believe so, yes.
And I think there is one more thing that we're looking at, which is, just get that
what
up. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you guys definitely want to, reach out, help out, we do make this platform better. One of the things, as you can tell, there's only a handful of us that actually make this event happen. There's definitely volunteers on the day of that help, with distributing the shirts and so on and so forth. But the biggest thing is, a lot of our site, a lot of the things that make this event happen well is due to the technology that we put into it. So just the organization from that tool is the biggest thing, right? So we try to build the platform better, but always looking for help.
Yeah, we've got a big backlog, so if anyone wants to join in.
And there's talks about hosting the whole website too.
Modernize, not hose, modernize.
Right.
Actually, I was thinking about that because I'm taking some online courses for Blazor, and I forget who was the person online that I spoke to about this, is using a Raspberry Pi to put the website, the sample website that I was doing. And I'm like, when you mentioned hosting website, a Raspberry Pi can have the website. And you can piggyback that off of somebody else's internet.
Hey, Chad, do you want to run a Raspberry Pi server at your house? I know
I've got pretty good up and down, so thanks to AT&T Fiber. So,
what are your speeds up and down?
I've got around 800 down and around 900 up.
That's slow? Just kidding.
I know, right?
Oh, raise your hands if you had at one time, a 1200 baud modem.
I never had 1200. The lowest I ever had was 9600.
Ooh, what kind?
It was on the Commodore 64.
300.
It was
300.
Done that too, and that was using for online for chats.
So I mean, we could. I mean, in theory, we can actually have somebody like you host it on a Raspberry Pi, and then use like GoDaddy to be the place for the DN. Yeah, exactly. And then you don't have to have a virtual world for it.
Yeah. Then again, I also have a couple $100 of credits on Azure a month, so.
But it doesn't. Go on.
No, I was going to say, I think we're okay, running things on Azure, but we're looking at, a couple of different ways to help modernize it and give it more either, easy to load, et cetera, right?
Right. I mean, you'd be surprised how powerful the Raspberry 4 is.
Oh yeah,
Raspberry
I've got
Pi
one
4 is.
over here. It's
on the bar.
It's awesome. Over here on the bar, yeah.
Right next to the eggs. Okay.
The pickled eggs.
The pickled eggs, yes. So that was my 2 cents in that is that that I'm even planning on deploying to the Raspberry Pi that was given to me last year.
Nice.
So do Blazor with the Raspberry Pi.
I do have a bunch of pies, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a box of pies. Don't worry.
Yes.
Man,
oh gosh.
talking about the pies is making me hungry.
All right, guys. How are we doing on time? And are we, do you want to wrap it up, Min?
Well, it's been a good discussion. I mean, I think it's up to the rest of the gang to say, like if they have anything else they want to bring up.
Sure, because I think Greg said, no, what the heck?
You want to kick me out, I know.
Greg, I don't care about COVID. I'm going to come to your house and pick up your dog.
Momos.
Exactly.
I know where you are now.
So, another thing for presenters and stuff. Min, we can't see your face. You can't be backlit.
I know. I've been fighting this thing.
What's that?
I've been fighting this thing.
You need one of those. Ring
lights.
Ring lights. Or you actually stay in a holodeck like I do.
But actually, no lies, man. You look better like this.
There we go. There.
The ring lights, actually, I'm not really too much of a fan because they really sometimes just expose the LED directly.
Yeah.
And what you really get is like kind of like a flatter panel where it's like a softer diffuse.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'm actually running right now is it's a old Android phone running as a camera using a software called IVCam, and this is the reason why you're getting that white screen, right? The wide angle effect, and the thing has an 8 megapixel camera front facing. 4K is less than 8 megapixel, right? It's like 2K, 2 megapixels. So this thing can keep pumping and pumping and pumping.
So there's something you should look into, Lewin, called NDI.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten into a bunch of this streaming stuff with hardware lights and have all the audio equipment and everything else. And NDI is kind of an open protocol for streaming video and audio. And so like the Skype consumer has it built in. And that's why, like, once in a while when you see people doing interviews on national TV or podcasts in online media, it'll have the little Skype up in the top, like the little icon. By the way, you should expect that in other Microsoft products soon. So, what's that?
Yeah, I know your hesitation there.
Yeah.
But so like here, I've got 2 NDI apps. One is for, you can see the like kind of blue ones. One is for the camera, and one is for capture. Mm-hmm. So capture, you can just do it as a recording. The camera, you can do it whatever. But what it does is it sets up and it goes over Wi-Fi. And you can hit it and say begin broadcasting, and then you can connect over Wi-Fi to whatever other stream you want to an NDI listener on your same network. And that way you could set up like 3 or 4 year old
phones or whatever.
Phones.
Sounds awesome.
And easily mount them on those like tripod clips or whatever, that are cheap nowadays. So you can get multiple camera angles and everything.
You're describing my exact setup right now, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I have that set up there. I have it set up on a couple of different, here, let me get rid of my background again. Choose virtual background, none.
It's a good use for the old phones.
Yeah, I have it set up on that camera, right, that you see, and I have it set up on this guy too, for recording, like various different.
Oh yeah, on your hands, yeah.
Yeah, Lowen and the team, one of the things that we probably want to do is, as Greg mentioned, right, we need to make sure that we can help transition some of these presenters over correctly, right? Granted that, that goes anywhere from, making sure that they have the technology, they're comfortable with it, presenting, taking questions, as, do they need somebody that is going to be a moderator in those rooms? So we got to think about all of those things.
Yeah, and just like kind of normal gotchas, so probably need like a recommendation list. I need to work on this for Code Camps I run too, of like, don't set your streaming at 4K, set it at 1080p, it's fine. Make sure your lighting is from your forward face. Try and get a wired connection if you can, rather than a Wi-Fi connection, things like that, right?
Yeah, any of those are helpful, or any other things that, if you need it, right, pre-recorded or something, and then restream it, or at least have a delay somewhere in there so that you can buffer and all the other stuff, right? Yeah, it gets interesting in terms of, what we can use.
Yeah, and then another thing like that I've been getting into is figuring out some legality of things. So if you're going to, I haven't figured out like if you're doing clips of video, like if there's a maximum length or something, but I know like on audio, like some people like to stream songs and stuff and other things. Like you can't really do that if you're going to make it publicly available, because then you'll really get them coming down on you. The company called ASCAP, ASCAP.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to get paid.
Yeah.
NPMI and SCCAM. So there are three rights organizations that come after you for those things. And I forget the name of the one that's the online one only that works strictly with online rights and pays money out to the rights holders. There's actually more than the three. There's the three biggies, and that's just for the United States. If anybody's watching overseas, you've got other ones too. So
yeah, so you're better off finding like Creative Commons, or I know that there's some people I've talked to, some streamers that like on Twitch that pay like $5 or $20 a month.
Yeah.
To get any music coming from there, then they're covered, so to speak. Well, just different interesting things to do. And you may be thinking, well, why would somebody want to do that? Well, if it's your 10 minutes between sessions, like where people go and get food and stuff, you think, oh, I'll just throw some music on there. Well, make sure you're doing the right music,
Otherwise you go down, right? Or they take it away, or they just block it, or, well, we're not looking for monetization, but yeah, they can do any of those things.
Is that a full like flying drone airplane you have there, Lynn?
Yeah, that thing is it's actually I think 8 channel on there, so I can actually do flaps and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, that's that one's fun.
Have you ever put a camera on it so you can like watch while you're doing it?
That doesn't have a camera. I have another one in the garage, about similar, about maybe about 6 inches smaller, that has a camera underneath.
Nice.
And that has floats, so it actually lands on at Kim's parents' lake house. That one's
cool.
Fun. I actually crashed it once in the middle of a lake. Had to go fetch it with a canoe. Or kayak.
I'm not surprised. There's learning that goes into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then a gust of wind that come in out of the middle of nowhere, right? You're like, oh crap, there's a wind pocket that just crushes you down.
So one of the projects I'm working on right now is for a national level power company. They own 7 nuclear plants as well as thousands and thousands of miles of power line and poles. And so they've been doing manual drone inspections to stop people from having to climb up the poles, but all of it's been manual. So the last few months we've been working on taking images, high-res images of the photos. Like we're talking like 100 megapixel kind of things where the cameras alone cost $40K.
Yeah.
And because especially on the nuclear side, they have to like look for tiny cracks in the concrete, right? And but putting all the AI on that to like say, hey, what's good or what's likely defective and stuff, it's been pretty interesting. All like the image classification and that stuff.
Yeah.
And so looking at, we're playing around with tons of different drones, and mostly because a lot of them are made overseas, like we're pretty restricted now because there's other parties that say, no, this is government utility kind of stuff where we only want them made in America. So there's all kinds of politics that get in there then.
Well, you got that, and additionally, right, you're also looking at, you might have to self-make your own drone at that point too, to a degree. Even the commercially available drones, right, like the U.S. Army got into trouble for running with DJI, Inspires. Those are amazing, but there is still a legality of where the video streams, right? Whereas if you have your own, then you can stream it whatever you want.
So what we've ended up doing is to avoid that with some of the already purchased stuff is not connecting the camera, like having a totally separate camera from the drone system.
Yeah.
So that none of the camera stuff goes through any of the software or hardware of the drone itself. But it makes it a little more difficult. You have to have a bigger drone, sports more weight.
And then you're going to have a separate gimbal system, right? That can that you get a separate controller that you got looking at 2 people crew then, or potentially a second person controlling the gimbal at that point.
Yep. And it's always a 2-man job.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that gets tricky, right? And
but this is big money, And,
oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
don't crash those drones. I don't want to see your AI crashing those drones.
So the AI I'm doing it isn't actually flying the drones. It's doing all the object recognition and like the transformers, the cross arms, the regulators, all that.
Yeah, those get interesting. We can talk offline afterwards, right? On how you're overcoming that 4K limitation, 4,000 by 4,000 limitations on some of the image recognition and stuff like that. It's fun. But
to start out on some of that, we downsample the images to begin with, because if we can take the happy paths out by downsampling them, with the resolution not so high. Even like to make this more generic so everyone can understand a little better, if you're not in the space, if you want to use like the Microsoft tools that they put in Azure, they won't take an image file bigger than 6 megabytes. Well, the smallest size images we're getting from these drone high-end cameras is 18 megabytes. So like we're using our own custom models and stuff, but like just even Azure stuff, 6 meg or less.
Yeah, you got those limitations. Additionally, if you can get rid of any other dimensions, right, that's going to help you, stuff like that, or put a different filter on it.
Our training has all kinds of augmentation, like where we flip images, skew them, adjust the color and contrast. We're trying to change it, because you have to realize, like, we're trying to not only recognize it in the happy path, like what if it's half covered in snow, and then in another part of the country it's ice and it's dusk or bright day, or what if the angle of the drone is looking up or from the down? Like there's a ton of interesting cases.
I was actually talking to one of the Microsoft guys, right, recently about the new camera systems that they're putting together as well. I told him I need something with infrared that is explosion proof, because I got a client that's actually doing the same thing, right? But you guys flying, we have to sewer tunnels, tossing these things down the sewer tunnel and floating it off, right, and figuring out
sewer tunnel explosion.
Yeah, you can have a electronic that actually flicks on something else that could, potentially.
That type of
Yeah, well, there's gases in sewers, right?
Yeah, there's all sorts of things. That one of the projects I'm working on is involving wastewater treatment. There's all sorts of horrible gases right now inside there. You don't want to have anything that's going to like make a spark go off. No.
Yeah, that doesn't fly, right?
It'd be
it can fly, but it might fly out in pieces.
Yeah, so
but it's just interesting space because both of those scenarios are either really bad for humans to get into for like sickness, or really high risk for them to climb up 50-foot poles. So I think those are great applications that can augment people's jobs. A lot of people fear the AI taking away jobs. They certainly will in some industries, but a lot of industries, I think, will be more augmented by it.
I think, the way I look at it is I was, using that as a way to actually make you as superhuman, right? Rather than taking your job away, because you are essentially, more capable this way rather than the other way around, right? Give you the technology to help enhance what you're doing rather than, collectively getting rid of you.
So that's it. Now that we're talking about this, right? What does, the rest of the group think? Like Kettler, Tony, Steve, Nate, John, Ann. What do you guys think? Do you think AI is more of a additional complementary tool, or do we think that AI is are we replacing jobs with AI and technology as a whole?
Hey, this is Kettler. I definitely think AI will eventually replacing a lot of jobs, like a lot of basic stuff that we are doing as a tech. Like, for example, maybe like calling like a help desk to maybe resetting a password. So AI has the capability of you just call a number and then you dial, for example, say, if you want to reset your password, press 1, and then boom, it send that, comment to the server. And after it verified the user, everything like that, then it's reset the password for you. So stuff like that can replacing, human interaction, like you may not really gonna need anymore, someone on the phone to help you. So I definitely think like the skills is going to be different, for a job in the future. So it definitely going to be replacing a lot of jobs,
Well, so that leads to the next question, which is going to be like, AI, I've written software, for past employers where the program that I wrote literally replaced somebody else's job altogether. And it's just, it doesn't have any AI component to it, right? But the better question is, if AI is, as a society, as we're working on these projects, if AI is replacing or augmenting these roles for people, do we need to train the people to the next skill set? Is that the gap that is it the gap that we're missing, or are we just completely running these people off the job?
This is a great subject for the whole session to have. This is what everybody in this industry is thinking about, and not only industry, but a lot of people who are doing manual job manufacturing probably affected already.
Yes, I've actually given a couple different talks on some of these questions. Wouldn't mind doing it for one of your upcoming meetings. So to answer my thoughts on that in short is I've went back and I've looked at industrial, specific industry revolutions, not industrial as in the larger historical sense, but industry revolutions. And you can find like about a dozen of them over the last 150 years. And it's usually quite easy for people to say, okay, the auto industry in the 80s, the metal industry around the same time, the cotton industry and clothing. The internet was largely a bigger thing because that brought in globalization. But significant kind of things that go back and forth or back many, many years and decades. And if you go look at each of those individually, what you'll find is that the reskilling that was needed for all of those individuals was relatively okay. It may have caused like a slight recession in that individual industry, and you give them like a decade where, okay, they lose that job skill, they kind of go back to school, they get repurposed. The problem with AI is that, and so let me say, that's happened a ton of times in history. The problem with AI is that it has the potential to do two things differently. One of them is to do it so quickly, where all of the stuff in a more physical kind of thing in the past tends to take a few years to kind of do it. But like, say, autonomous driving, right? We have some point in the future, we may hit it like a year, and then like companies just switch over like gangbusters, and all of a sudden you've got 100,000 truck drivers that are out of a job within a year. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it can happen in multiple industries at the same time. So now let's imagine the truck drivers happen the same year as the retail workers, as the same year as the cashiers and all the fast food joints. So now you're talking about it happening really quickly and to a whole width or breadth of people. So what that's going to do is put extra strain on the capability in a global market for those people to get reskilled in a short time. Does that make any sense? But if Min and Lynn and the rest of you guys want me to talk at length about all that, and
I agree.
I got it.
I agree. I mean, when you say AI, I also, it comes to me that says like manual testing over automation testing. And back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, they're saying that all the manual testers are going to be replaced with automated scripts. And that didn't really happen just because of the fact that automation was not really up to par. And AI, I'm thinking, is only limited because of all the issues that they've had. And I really do not think that our technology is there where they could say they're going to put a truck on the streets and have it be able to deliver without any issues. I think that it's going to be problematic, but that's just my opinion.
Well, AI at this point right now is very specific and limited, right? So there's like different levels of AI, and the point they are right now is that baby steps at the beginning.
Yeah, what you're talking about, Nate, is referred to as like a general AI, and we're nowhere near a general AI, and then we're even further away, like in an exponential curve, from a singularity. I view the capability of us ever reaching a singularity, not just like in our lifetime, but ever, as very, very remote. Like there's some fundamentals of stuff that just needs to like completely break. Like kind of like figuring out we can break the speed of light kind of leap. You know, futurists say like, oh, we'll have the singularity that'll control everything. There's some significant like physics leaps that need to happen for that. I mean, I'm not, as a scientist, I'm not saying it won't happen. Maybe it is, but I'm just not fearful of that. I'm much more fearful of what I described in terms of it causing mass poverty in, like, say, a 20-year period by putting people out of jobs.
To your point, Greg, right? All throughout my career, you know, somebody comes up with a new form of automation or a new framework, and you move up the stack, right? But I think what happens is with this, it actually impacts a level of society that can't just move on to something very easily, right? I mean, if you're a truck driver, you don't just move up the chain. You lose your job, right?
Right, and so then you start getting into the ethics of it, and I don't want to bring in 2020 politics, but if you look at it from just a larger like philosophical politics, at some point, does that lead to a universal basic income? Right. And what I would encourage you to do is to think about that, as a lot of us, I would imagine in this call, are sci-fi fans. Don't think about it in like real world politics. Think about it as like quote unquote semi-utopia sci-fi movies where money is less of an important factor because AI has taken away, for the population, it's taken away so much of what would be capable.
Hey, Greg, why don't you submit for July, and then we'll continue this conversation in July.
Okay.
You can
make it a topic.
Yeah,
great.
Cool.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, we can have a discussion-based thing on it, or you can have a presentation and then discussion, whichever way, right? We'll figure out a way to make it work for all of us. I think there are a lot of feedback that we can, I think people will be interested in as well.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, but my question would be is how long would these presentations be? Just curious.
Maybe tops 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at traditional time frame, right? 45 minutes presentation. The good news is that with nobody else following it, discussion can last longer, depending on how it goes. So it becomes an open field at that point, right? The aim is to have people participating from it as well, not just the presenter, but everybody else get it, get their thoughts at least.
Yeah, I think that works well. You do a shorter presentation and get a lot of people involved in the discussion.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. For us, we are pretty much out of topics, and we're almost out of time for our schedule, our team schedule. So thanks for joining, everyone. It's been a really good discussion. Good feedback overall from all of you. Greg, thanks for making me switch my chair around.
Well, I just wanted to see your face.
Thanks,
that was a bad call, Greg.
Yeah, you're gonna disagree there.
Now I have a question for you guys. This is off topic.
Yeah.
My wife has got an issue with her laptop. It says tablet driver not responding Windows 10. And
how old is the tablet?
What's that?
How old is the machine? And what Windows are you installing?
Windows 10.
Which version?
Hopefully the latest version. We're doing an update, and that's what caused what did this spiral.
Which window? Which tablet?
And it's what's that?
Which tablet is it?
Oh, it's the what is it called again? It's called the Wacom.
Oh,
WAC.
Yeah.
That should
be
supported.
Yeah, and it says to go now. The only thing I could do is go into safe mode, and in safe mode, I can't even start the services in order to reset the services.
Ugh. Does it work on any other computer or?
Oh, I'm not even. We don't even. It's the actual computer itself not working.
Okay, not just the connecting of the tablet.
Right. We don't care about the tablet. We just want her to be able to use her computer. So I just thought maybe if any one of you guys heard of this issue. And
when you're in safe mode, did you try rolling back?
I tried. There was nothing to roll back to, which is odd.
Out of curiosity, is it a 32-bit type machine that you're installing it onto? There's a, and I don't know if, off the top of my head, I have like an HP Stream 7, and it won't take 64-bit installs of the operating system. And as far as I know, isn't Microsoft phasing out support for 32-bit versions of Windows 10? And if so,
I'll take a look if it's 32.
As far as I know, I mean, they're still live on MSD everywhere else.
Yeah, but I believe that you're right that they're not killing the 32-bit subsystem, but yeah, they're trying to target the OS because they made some announcement like the newer, it depends on how old your Wacom system is, because they said there was a mention of like, if the CPUs are so like of a certain age, like they won't be able to run the later versions of Windows 10. Like they made some OS choices to do that.
Okay, I'll just buy her another computer.
I mean, that always works, right?
Yeah, they could be deprecating the older chipsets out. I mean, there are ways to get around that if you want to be creative about it, but it's not really worth it, right? At that point, I mean, how much time do you want to spend on it?
Linux at that point.
Yeah.
Or even Chrome OS, worst case.
Okay. Okay.
Chrome
Like
OS is
even
deprecating older machines, so it's not just a problem with that. My Hackintosh slash Chromebook with Windows and Ubuntu and whatnot on it, I got a message that Google isn't going to support it anymore. So
yeah, there is an age factor, right? I mean, I think Apple started playing that game a while ago, and I think people are catching on to it to a degree. Also, I mean, the Windows and Linux less so, but Windows subsystem is also pretty damn big, right? To keep it going. So it does take same thing for OS X too, right? Both of those systems have a very large back-end process that are running, that are loaded to a degree, that are going to be probably bogging it down too. John, I would say get Linux, put on a stick and run with it. And I actually can give you a right theme for Linux, depending on whether if you're going to use Ubuntu or Debian, that can actually make it look like Windows. You won't even know.
I'd rather buy her a new computer and just do that myself on a sidebar for that, and maybe we could show that as a presentation and say, hey, look, what kind of OS do we have on here?
Yeah, right. Because I actually saw some pretty interesting theming on the new the new GNOME and it's been interesting.
Even
open desktop too, right? Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
So even like since we're talking about operating systems, that the latest Mac version that they call Catalina, 64-bit only. Yep. It doesn't even run 32-bit apps anymore.
Yeah,
that was a heartbreaking change.
Yeah, I have a workaround for that way.
But
did you hear about the new CPU?
I know they're
for Apple or for
Apple.
No.
Well, I was aware that they're developing their own CPU for their products, but somewhere I read that it said that they're actually going to be selling the CPUs to compete with Intel.
Ooh.
Well, they're already making their own CPUs for the phones, so like the Bionic chip A13, and so I would imagine that they're expanding that architecture rather than starting from scratch.
Correct. They are trying to put Bionic into the laptop form factor.
Really? So like a MacBook with Bionic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see the scale, right, where they are going with it. Look at the popularity of the iPad, right? I have an iPad, the later, Pro with a keyboard. I mean, that thing is, I wouldn't call it a laptop, but for, like your mom, my parents, etc., right? That would be a perfect laptop for them.
I mean, Greg, think
about it.
And the rest of the guys, I mean, that iPad OS, right? It outputs externally. It's got USB keyboard, whatever, full stack capability now on it. Now that everything's now going towards USB-C, the only thing it doesn't do is compile apps.
Which I believe it's essentially ARM.
Right.
Yes.
Or it's ARM compatible.
Yes.
But so, okay, but this is really interesting because if they change Mac OS, like it's different to have two forks of iPad or iPad OS and iOS.
Yeah.
And then they have Mac OS. And Mac OS is x86 based. The other two are ARM based. So at some point, if they start having, say, their low end things, so like MacBooks, MacBook Air, but not MacBook Pro, like have those on iPad OS or something, right?
Right.
Like, are they going to throw away the creatives, the producers? Because you have to look at consumers and producers. like if they come out and say even our MacBook Pro is based on ARM, like that's going to piss a lot of people off that are doing photo video development.
Well,
it's kind of weird.
So, I mean, I think that's a crazy thing about the Apple, Apple community. They are diehard fans, and they will go the distance.
Well, I got other things going on right now. I got to go finish up a great job. But let me tell you this. Well, one word: Mac Pro. I dropped my mic and I'm done. Right? I mean, look at the freaking stand. The stand is $200. I mean, no, sorry, stand is $400. Yeah. The wheels are the wheels are $400. The stand is $700.
Yeah,
piece of aluminum.
Yeah, but I mean, that's I would call like high-end Pro. I mean, like
I get it.
I'm talking like the MacBook Pro laptops. Like, there's a lot of people that have those, and because they can dual boot and they're decent hardware. But like, if they switch to an ARM-based processor, man.
Well, have you seen Photoshop on ARM? On iPad, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I'm sure it can for like individual things. I'm talking about like if you throw benchmarks against photo editing, video editing, game creation, compiling things, it's gonna, or playing high-end games, like it's not even gonna compare.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to get going, guys.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, I should probably call it myself.
So, John, they made a recent announcement about that, or what?
Yeah, it was somewhere I read online that they're going to. I think the article mentioned that they're going to be switching over, and it was no secret. About 3 or 4 years ago, they were talking. There are like conspiracies that they're going to be getting away from the Intel chip. This way, that to defeat the Hackintoshes. However, if they're going to be selling that same CPU onto other motherboards, like to compete with Intel and AMD, you're going back to the same boat again.
Sounds like we'll find out soon enough, because yes, WWDC is only
Check the link in the chat. I saw ARS Technica had a post about it, and kind of talking about what they think is going to happen at WW, the Worldwide Developer Conference, and I posted a link to the one I saw about it in the chat. Anyway, they're talking about at least moving maybe 1 or 2 models over right away, and maybe moving it throughout their whole product line eventually. So.
All right. Well,
but it's speculation at this point until they actually, drop the hammer and let it go. I mean, I've heard from some people that are doing beta testing that they're going for a completely wireless phone. They're going to skip USB-C off the iPhone and just go straight to wireless. So I heard that maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So
are they going to be charging wireless as well?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And something along the lines with they're buying something with satellite capacity as well, which I don't know specifics. The beta tester kind of alluded to it because of the NDA stuff, but that's Apple. Apple can do what they do, and they've got a very devoted fan base that will pony up the big bucks to pay for what they're doing. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Well, I mean, have you heard about the right to repair people? Louis, oh God, what is his last name? I forget what his last name. He's in New York, and he's been repairing Macs, which is interesting because he hates Macs, but he makes money repairing Mac notebooks and phones, and he shows how Apple is making money by saying, "Hey, I'm going to sell you a new machine because we can't repair it," and then he shows people that he can repair it and remove photos off of them, even though Apple said no, they can't.
Yeah, that's another possibility for a topic of a future session. The right to repair. A lot of farmers are into that as well with John Deere and whatnot. So
exactly,
there could be some great conversations on that if we have some people that are qualified to speak on that, it would be an awesome presentation to talk about.
All right, maybe people are dropping off right now at this point. So let's keep this discussion going. We definitely have the Slack channel open for people to join. Slack.chicagocodecamp.com. Otherwise, just shoot us a message. Let's have this conversation in a month's time.
And if you're on any of the other social media networks, follow us there. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Of course, the Slack channel has different themes as well. So,
what is Slack? /Chicago Code Camp, and that'll auto invite you nowadays.
Yeah, go to slack.chicagocodecamp.com. I'll send a message in the chat.
And I think Min's also got an OnlyFans and a couple other things.
Do you mean chicagocodecamp.com/Slack?
No.
I think chicagocodecamp.slack.com.
Do we have a what is it called? What is the other one called? There's another one that I use too.
Teams?
We're not on Snapchat. We're TikTok right now. Yet.
Discord is the other.
Yeah, Discord. Thank you. I keep on forgetting the name. I'm on Discord.
We have a Discord team at one point. If you're on it and trying to talk to us, you will not get us.
Oh, I do a lot of Twitch, and I've got a lot of people on Twitch that use it. That's why, including Barnacles.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree, John. If you're on Twitch at all, pretty much all the streamers use Discord there. I'm actually contemplating getting into Twitch myself for streaming. I've been participating as a viewer for a long time, but.
Oh yeah, let me know. Seriously, let me know, because I'll definitely help you out with that. If you want me to be a moderator or something like that, just so that that you don't have to. I mean, I hate to say this. I mean, I think Barnacles is probably the extremist to how many people go in there and they just like to insult you, and you don't have time for that.
Yeah, and then you have to worry about one of the reasons I'm trying to figure it out yet is I have all the hardware and all the setup now, but the software side, you have to have like your own bot in there to like stop porn and racist stuff, and otherwise you have violations. There's a lot of interesting things. But anyways, I got to get running. Talk to you guys all later.
See you guys. I'll see you.
Thanks for coming to this AMA.
Thank you.